So let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to the People of Color Healing Space. Our space will be focused on self-care, finding a collective community, and this will be a place to take care of ourselves and each other. Today's training is going to be about finding ourselves, gathering our thoughts, and seeing how we are related to current events. Cool, so before we get started, I'm going to ask everyone to turn off your phones, put it aside, grab a drink of water, some paper, and a pencil to write with, and overall just get comfortable and center yourselves. Cool. So, my name is Maggie, and I will be one of your facilitators today. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in California.
And my name's Serena. I will also be facilitating today. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm from California as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Now let's get to know you guys. So, for introductions, I guess you can just read it, but basically names, pronouns, location, one thing you're looking for in this training, and if you could see only one color, what would it be? And popcorn style. So, Sydney, do you want to start us off?
Okay. My name is Sydney. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Kentucky. One thing I'm looking for in this group is just more tips to, give advice to other people and educate other people on how equality works. And if I could see a color, one color would be purple.
Nice. Michelle?
Hi, my name is Michelle. My pronouns are she and her. And one thing I'm looking for in this group is to learn more. And if I only could see one color, I would only see. I don't really know.
That's totally fine. Cool.
So, with that in mind, we want the training to be really low pressure and comfortable as possible. But first, before we begin, we also want to establish a few norms for it. So the first one is to be here. We ask that you are trying to be as present as possible, whatever that means for you. It could be taking a few seconds right now to get a drink or to silence your phone, like Maggie said, just so that once we actually start, everyone can fully engage. And next, we ask that this is a space where we take care of both ourselves and others so that we help each other out. But most importantly, if you need something, feel free to ask for help. And last is to let go, because we're not always going to get all the answers we want or have the time to finish the conversations we begin here, but that's totally fine because we're going to learn opportunities here to sustain learning coming out of this training. And so we're just asking you guys to commit and respect these norms so that the space we create here is really safe and productive.
Mm-hmm. So finally, we've just tried to make this Zoom as secure as possible and have only sent the link to the people who have registered. But if we do, for some reason, get Zoom bombed, we will quickly put up this picture of a really cute puppy so you know to mute your audio. We will try to kick them out as quickly as possible and secure the room again. Once the puppy is off the screen, we're good to continue, but please feel free to take a moment for yourself if you do need it. Cool, now let's get started. The first activity that we will start with is stretching. And you guys are feel free to turn on your cameras and turn off your mute buttons because this space is a place where we can all heal and just get to know one another. So yeah, let's get started.
So the first two stretches we're doing, I guess, aren't really stretches. It's just focus on your jaw and your shoulders and unclench your jaw and release tension from your shoulders. This is something I have to think about multiple times per day. Like I'll just be sitting there and realize my shoulders are really hunched up and my jaw is clenched, and then I just relax and I'm already feeling a bit better. And next we're gonna reach up to the sky. And come back down slowly. And now let's roll our neck around in one direction. And now the opposite direction. And once you're ready, return to a comfortable position. And again, keep in mind that a comfortable position is to release all that tension in your muscles. And also keep in mind throughout the rest of the activities during this training and hopefully the rest of your life to be aware of any tension in your neck and your shoulders and release it once you're aware of it.
Yeah, so usually, including last week, we start out with a stretch to get ourselves comfortable and to, relax ourselves before we get into the training. So we actually did do this last week, and this is kind of like a warm-up for us. Cool. Now, Serena, do you want to tell us about safe spaces?
Yeah, so this is kind of an informative and more introduction to what we're focusing on today, and it's gonna help us later on in our final activity is to just go over and think about what a safe space is and what it means to you. I can say for one, somewhere you feel like you're not being judged, there's no unsolicited opinions, you don't have to explain yourself because you just feel supported and respected. And another thing is the importance of spending time with yourself as well. It's just a time to discover yourself, your opinions, your experiences, and your voices. And spending time alone can really allow you to think deeply about what's been troubling you that you haven't allowed yourself to really get to the core of and come up with solutions. And so, first, let's just take a moment to think about where you've experienced a safe space before and feel free to share. For me, I always kind of used to feel like my friend group and the group chat we had was a safe space for me because I was able to be myself. But lately, I haven't felt supported by them as a person of color, and so that's why I was really wanting to get involved with this year. And again, that's also an example of why spending time with yourself is also a good thing. So Maggie or anyone else you want to share?
I would definitely agree that recently the world's been very chaotic and it's been harder and harder to find safe spaces, which is why to me this training is so important because I actually get to find people that I can actually full on relate to. So that's one of the main reasons why I really appreciate this training. Cool. We will have some kind of exercise that helps us talk about these kind of later in the training. So for right now, you can just think about them, but later we will actually have you do something else with your thoughts.
And last, also think about during this training how much time you actually spend with yourself, because it's not just like doing homework on your own or just chilling and watching Netflix or reading, but just like how much time you actually spend just maybe writing or doing art and answering your own questions you have about yourself. I know I have a really hard time doing this. Like I will find myself wanting to listen to music while I'm taking a shower, while I'm going to sleep, because I do not want to spend time alone with myself. And so that's something I definitely need to work on. But when I do, I'm able to address some things that have been bothering me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So after, kind of centering our thoughts, we are going to work on a breathing exercise and keep in mind that we're not just making you do these exercises just to do them. We want you guys to focus and focus and hone in on your thoughts, as well as apply these techniques in the future when you really start to feel the pressure and you really need these exercises to keep you healthy and keep you healed. So, Serena, do you want to go ahead and explain?
Yeah, so like Maggie said, these exercises are meant to help us relax and clear our mind. It's also a good option to think about those 2 questions that I asked about your safe spaces and how much time you spend alone with yourself. How it's going to work is we're going to inhale for a certain number of seconds and then hold our breath and then exhale. But the catch is that each time we repeat this exercise, we're going to aim for more seconds of inhaling and exhaling. But don't worry if you can't hold it or breathe out for that long. Just focus on keeping your breath steady and using this as a tool for meditation and relaxation. If you feel comfortable, feel free to close your eyes during this. And if you can, please go off mute for this activity. And don't worry about counting or anything because I will be doing that for us. So let's get started. First, breathe in for 2 seconds. 1, 2. Hold for 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale for 2 seconds. 1, 2. Now breathe in for 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. And exhale 2, 3, 4. Now breathe in for 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 2, 3, 4. And exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And last one, breathe in for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hold for 4, 2, 3, 4. And exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there we go.
Wow. I actually do feel a lot better after that. Cool. So now that we have our thoughts all centered and we feel a lot more relaxed, let's move on. So the next topic that we're going to talk about, we talked about this kind of in our last training, and so this week we're not going to really focus on this, but I just wanted to go over a collective community again, because that's the number one thing that we want when we come to these kind of trainings, to feel like a family, to feel like a collective community. So before I actually get started on the topic, can anyone give me like a guess of what a collective community can be? Or if you know the definition already, go ahead and just, unmute.
Is it like you come together like as a whole?
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Sydney. So essentially, a collective community is a group of people that are, kind of come together and are motivated by at least one common issue or interest. So this kind of working together is seen in neighborhoods. It's seen in anything that involves teamwork and a group of people. So actually what's really cool about this is, in our case, we actually come together to represent a community where we all care about each other and we're all here to support one another. So that's one example of a collective community. So yeah, I'm gonna ask a question and you guys will try to think a bit of this, but because I gave some examples already, I wanted to know when you guys have felt collective community. So this can be more of a discussion. Just come off mute and say anything. I can start this off. So um, I know in my church we all come together, and we're all motivated by the same interest. So I remember recently we had um, not recently, but before this whole situation happened, I remember we had I think I talked about this already, but we had sleepover, I think. And during the sleepover, everyone was just so vulnerable, and we all really just came together, and we all felt more like family because there's obviously there's obviously a community, but then once you start to be able to decipher what a community is, you find that there's actually a different kind of community called collective community, and um, it didn't really feel like a community anymore because we really bonded, and actually it felt like a collective community. um so that's just one time I felt collective community.
So I'll go next. This is something that in the future. So I'm part of my city's youth commission, and we were recently able to help our city council in deciding about CARES Act funding, which is basically federal money given to various cities in response to COVID-19. And so in the upcoming weeks, we are going to be coming together and talking about ways that youth need help in responding, both with youth programs, access to jobs, education, mental health. And so what about half of the commission, including myself, we're working on the youth programs and jobs. And so we're definitely motivated by listening to our communities that we're a part of outside of the commission, and then bringing those ideas back to find the best way to recommend to council that they put the money to use in order to help the youth of my city.
Anyone else want to go off mute and share? Cool. If not, we can go on to our next activity. Serena already kind of showed us this, but the next thing we're going to do is journaling. So this is where we will ask you guys to take out a piece of paper and a pencil if you can. And we're just going to be asking a series of questions that correspond to what we're trying to the point that we're trying to make today. And if you're comfortable, we will have sharing times for all of these questions. So that'll be like another discussion. Cool, let's get started. So, how are we holding ourselves accountable for our own mental and physical health? This one is kind of self-explanatory. Just on your piece of paper and pencil, jot down any notes about this, and yeah.
And after you address that, we think about how can we improve in holding ourselves accountable. And so these are the first two questions. You'll have about 5 minutes, but also feel free to add on to this after the training's over. And I'll just be playing some music while we're all writing, and then we'll have a chance to share, and then we have a few more topics to journal about.
Yeah, journaling is a great way for us to share our feelings and to center our thoughts. I know that recently it's been very tough for me to be able to really get a hold of my thoughts because there's so much emotions coming in, especially there's just been so many emotions that it's hard to control. So journaling, I would definitely recommend. It's a great way to heal, and it's a great way to fulfill, just help ourselves through this kind of situation.
Everyone's like been kind of lazy, and so like I like wanted to like work out by myself, but like when the time comes when I have like on my schedule, I like push it back and end up not doing it. And then for number 2, I can just set a goal for myself or like treat myself afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can go next. I said that I know it's a hard time and a new time for everyone, which is why it's been hard to, be accountable for our mental health and physical health. Yeah, I just said that it's being stuck at home is kind of hard because you're always talking. The only people that you have communication access with is your family, or face to face actually. But we're all bonding, and that's kind of it.
I'll go next. So basically, this is something I've struggled with. So when basically quarantine started, I was having a hard time reaching out to my friends. And then once I was able to do that, then it was already like late May, early June, and that's when the whole thing happened with George Floyd, and honestly, like a civil rights movement across the country. And at that point, I was feeling really disconnected from a lot of my friends because I'm the only non-white person in my main friend group, and so it took me a while, but I eventually was able to reach out to a few friends and really make sure that I took the initiative to tell them ways that I would need to feel more supported. And so I did get some responses that really made me feel better. And so that's something that I was I was really just secluding myself and isolating myself at the first part, and I'm still having a problem with that. And so for the how can I improve, just reaching out is still a big thing for me.
I definitely agree with that. Okay, cool. Next questions. So, in what ways am I uplifting people of color and Black voices?
And again, how can I improve? So again, we'll give a couple of minutes for us all to gather and write down our thoughts, and we'll have a moment to share.
Cool. Let's start sharing. Does anyone want to go first?
So I can go. I wrote about kind of continuing on what I was talking about from the last two questions about how I was able to reach out to a few friends and let them know in what ways they could support me. And one of those ways was telling them, if you're up to it, can I send you resources that resources as in like movies, stories, books, music, articles that are all about uplifting people of color and Black voices. And they said yes. And so that's been something that I've been doing a lot to really make sure that those two people are willing to learn and that I am assisting them in pointing out things to look into.
I can go next. Yeah, I was thinking about this question and I realized that there's another training called anti-oppression, I think. I don't really remember, but they were talking about being an ally versus being just an activist. So essentially ally is working towards the movement, and just being an activist is just being like just posting stuff online and raising awareness, which is really great overall, but doesn't really get much done involving the statistics of the movement. So I was just thinking about all the people that were posting on a lot of social media foundations, but weren't really donating or doing anything much to help. So yeah, and then I kind of just thought about which one I was, whether I was a ally or an activist, and I realized that I really want to push myself to be an ally, to really help people of color, Black voices. So that's kind of what I was writing about. Does anyone else want to share?
And if you don't feel like speaking up, feel free to also use the chat.
I can go. Well, for number one, I wrote that I repost like informational like other posts, and I also sign petitions. But considering that Maggie said that reposting doesn't really do anything, I guess that I can improve on actually doing things instead of just just saying it, you know, and just say as I do, I guess.
Yeah, I think there was honestly, posting about information though is a lot more better than just writing, or not writing, but posting. I guess, okay, so what I was trying to say with mine was that you can post, but if you want to post, at least make it information or informative, right? Because I think there was like a Blackout Tuesday and everyone posted black squares. And although it was like a strong movement because everyone was doing it, it kind of flooded the Black Lives Matter hashtag. So it was hard to find information. And that's what I was, after that blackout, people started noticing that we can't just post trying to raise awareness. We at the same time, we need to also be informative and include information about that. So
That's exactly kind of why I finally was able to start having like the hard conversations with my friends, because I wasn't feeling supported. And something that's good about really bringing the discussion to your friends and family is that that they're hearing you. Instead of like, because it's like posting, but if you're telling them directly, then that they're seeing it and that they're listening to you, and that hopefully they agree with it or are at least trying to learn from it. And that can be a hard thing when they don't, because I've also experienced that, where they just didn't want to make an effort to be a better listener, and be a better ally. And that can be hard, but we also have a duty to ourselves and others to try and spread awareness and make sure it's actually being spread and information is actually being learned.
I agree. Cool. So we have a couple more questions, not too much. These are more focused on yourself. So the first question is, in what ways have current events affected your life/mental health?
And reflect on how these moments have affected the way you think and act. Have you felt growth since the beginning of whether that's quarantine or the beginning of the protests, things like that?
Yeah, so these focus a lot more on your kind of contributions and what you do. So I'll give it a moment for everyone to jot down their notes here. Cool. So it's okay if you didn't finish. We just want this exercise is mainly just to make you think about how your response is in many different areas and just find out what support you need. And so it's okay if you don't jot everything down. We just want you to be able to, gather your thoughts and don't push them aside and just be able to listen to your thoughts. Cool. Does anyone want to start us off?
I just want to make a comment about going back to something we discussed earlier about spending time with yourself. And that's a great way to, if you were having trouble with especially the second question on reflecting on how you've been thinking and how you've been acting in the past few months and whether or not it's been positive or negative and if you've felt any change or growth. And spending time alone, just 5 minutes every day, can really help you set better goals and mindsets for the next day in turn, and make sure you're not having any negativity that's just not getting resolved because you're not giving yourself time to resolve it because you're just keeping busy.
Cool. So I can start us off. So as for current events, I think the elephant in the room, COVID-19, obviously that's really impacted kind of the whole world, including me. So I feel like without I just felt like because I wasn't able to, I don't know, being stuck all day really has an effect on you. I wasn't really noticing, or I wasn't really noticing like huge changes, but it really does impact your mental health, and that's I think what happened with me. Not being able to communicate with the friends and not being able to go anywhere really does change your lifestyle and your mental health. And the way that I want to, I don't know, for like growth, I feel like I'm definitely in a better place than I was when quarantine first started. I feel like, like Serena said, it's hard to have time for you to focus on yourself. But once you do, there really is a much, much better positive impact. So that's something that I've been doing a lot more recently, and I feel like that's one way that I'm growing.
And for me, like I've touched upon a bit before, is when the protests started happening and I was not feeling at all supported by my friend group, that really like made me shut down. Like I said, I was isolating myself for a while. Um, and but then I was able to, think what would make me feel better is uh, seeing if any of my friends would listen to me when I told them that I wasn't being supported and that I didn't feel like they were doing enough to be actively anti-racist and actively fight against white supremacy. And that's something I'm still doing. I am hopefully going to be reaching out to a few more of my friends and sending an email to the headmaster of my school, just because, you know, uh, I've just grown more in, like I said, spending time alone and finding my voice and what I really want and what would make me feel better and what I know would make other people feel better at my school who are in the same situation as me.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on. We have two more questions. These are our last two questions. The first question is, when do I feel safe? So this goes out to all of you guys. Do you have a space where you feel safe? And the last question is, where and how can you find a safe space if you don't have one? So again, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to write these down. Cool. So, I feel like I've been talking a lot. Does anyone want to start us off?
Yeah, I can go. So I feel safe whenever I'm around my family. And then if like you don't have like a safe place, I guess you could always go like to the church that you attend to, or a local church, or like a youth kind of group in like the school you go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like youth are a lot more accepting these days. So I totally agree with that.
And I'll go again, continuing my whole saga of the struggles I've been having with my friends is, once everything happened like I've been saying, I felt like I had lost one of my safe places because, I would always be texting my friends, and having fun with them. Um, we would have Zoom movie nights. But then I realized if I wasn't feeling supported by them, and once I tried to reach out, a few of them didn't want to change some of their thinkings, then I realized that wasn't really a safe place at all, because going back to what some of the definitions were that we thought of in the beginning, I didn't always feel respected. I did feel like I had to defend my own personal experiences. And so finding a new, really true safe space is something that I have been struggling to find this summer. But something I'm doing is trying to create one for myself, like I said, by taking those friends who were willing to learn and making sure they know the ways that would make me feel supported, and so that we're all explicitly sharing how we want to feel supported and we're making our own safe space. I think that is something that's hard, but something that can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you guys all for sharing that. I know we all we're kind of vulnerable there, but thank you guys so much for sharing. And I feel like we just kind of grew our collective community because we are really bonded. Cool. And this is the last thing that we are going to, this is the last activity for today. Just remember that we're not making you do these exercises just to merely do them for this training, but to apply these techniques later in your future. So yeah, just to help your future if you feel any, hard situations, or if you're any. Cool. So Serena, do you want to explain this slide?
Yeah, so we're asking each of us to make a commitment to ourselves of a way, an action that we can support ourselves or someone else of color or both. Um, so feel free to share by coming off mute. We can share ideas. It's really wants to be more of a discussion, and definitely try and think of something that will make you feel better about yourself and your life. For me, I want to commit to writing that email, like I said, to my school about ways I feel like I haven't been supported and other students of color haven't been supported, because that's been something I've been like writing in my head, but I haven't actually done it. And so if there's something like that, that's a good idea. So I'll be here again next week, and so I'm gonna be committing to writing that email by next week. So Maggie, you can hold me accountable if I don't do it.
Of course. So yeah, I can actually go next. I'm planning to support my local Black-owned businesses around here. I was looking at a website earlier, and there's a list of Black-owned businesses. So that's definitely that I'm gonna start working on, and I'm definitely going to. Oh yeah, hold me accountable, Serena, and next week if I don't do this. But that's a commitment that I will do. So you can write your commitment. Oh, we want everyone to do this because we want you guys to commit. So feel free to write it in the chat or just to unmute.
And if you're having trouble, nothing's really too small. Remember what we talked about earlier today about how much just like spending 5 minutes alone with yourself can help you and help you become more determined and thus help people around you. And so this, you could even commit to just spending 5 minutes with yourself each day, and see what changes.
Yeah, so thank you guys for sharing. So here are a list of resources to utilize. Serena can send them in the chat. But there's a really good podcast to help with healing, and there's a mental health guide made by actually one of the members on our team. Her name is Amy. So yeah, she's also a person of color, so go support her. And last but not least, we also have learning circles. So this is basically just a WhatsApp group where we support each other, and it's a very open space. So feel free to join that. Next week will be our next, or I think our final week of training. So invite your friends, come back next week, and yeah, just thank you guys for coming, and come back next week, which is on the 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern time for day 3, or the last day of Healing Space. If there are any questions, please stay. You're welcome to stay and just ask them. Other than that, you guys are free to go. Thank you for coming. Bye.